Greetings, boys and girls. In today's video, we are going to be looking at measurement benchmarks. So the essential question today is, how can you use benchmarks to understand the relative sizes of measurement units? So in today's video, we're just going to be able to talk about inches and see about what would be the size of 1 inch. And we'll talk about meters, and we would think about what would be about 1 meter, so that if we're thinking about something and we just want to estimate the length of it or the weight of that, we can use what we know about some benchmarks with measurement to figure out the best estimate, a reasonable estimate. Okay, let's get right into it. Well, we live here in the United States, and in the United States, we use what is known as the customary system of measurements. So, when we think about customary units of length, we are thinking about inches, feet, yards, and miles. Okay? The smallest of these would be inches. The largest of those would be miles. So let's look at the first problem. Jake says the length of his bike is about 4 yards. We're going to think about, is this reasonable? Well, a yard is not the size of our backyard, but it's about the size of 1 baseball bat. And so we're thinking about his bike. Well, Jake's bike is most likely a little bit longer than a baseball bat. We can see in the part of the picture up top, it would be a little bit longer than a baseball bat, but it wouldn't be 4 of those. Okay? So a baseball bat is about 1 yard long, and since Jake's bike is shorter than 4 times the length of a baseball bat, his bike is shorter than 4 yards long. So Jake's statement is not reasonable. Jake's bike is about 1 baseball bat long. So looking at these customary units of length, a fingernail is about 1 inch. So the good news is you can look at your fingernail when you're thinking about what is the size of 1 inch. A license plate on a car is about 1 foot. Some adults' feet are about 1 foot. Your feet are going to be approaching that size at some point, but I know some of your feet might be a little bit shorter. A baseball bat, again, is about a yard. And then a mile is how far you would walk in about 20 minutes, not walking super fast. You can also think about the track that we walk on during recess. If we go around that track 4 times, that is the length of 1 mile. Okay? Let's look at the next one. Now we're going to look at liquid volume. So here in the United States, if you're going to measure a liquid, you're probably going to use cups, ounces, pints, quarts, or gallons. You see there's a half a gallon as well. So if I go to the grocery store, the liquid items I'm going to purchase are going to be in cups, fluid ounces, pints, quarts, half a gallon, or a gallon. Okay? And so when you think of 1 cup, just think of just like a small glass that you would drink out of. Now, 1 pint, it looks like a little milk carton, but think about like the school milks that you would get. It would really be 2 school milks. And when I told you to think about 1 cup as like a small cup, think about 1 school milk for this. So you can see that a pint is twice as large as a cup. Now a quart, they showed you a little bit larger amount of milk. to help you visualize this, I would think of this as 4 school milks. So I'm going to jump all the way to the gallon. You see, that's that big milk jug. That's a gallon. And a half a gallon is going to be half of that. So if I'm thinking about how much liquid is in a mug of hot chocolate, I know it wouldn't be a gallon. And I know it wouldn't be half of that either, so it wouldn't be half gallon. I'm thinking like a mug of hot chocolate, that's 1 serving size. So that's going to be more so 1 cup, okay? It's going to most likely be 1 cup because we're just talking about a mug. And we're going to assume we're talking about a regular mug and not like a mega gigantic mug like you may have at your house. Then we have customary units of weight. 1 pencil is about 1 ounce. A complete loaf of bread, like when you buy a brand new loaf of bread, that's about 1 pound. Think about it. 1 pound is not super heavy. You know, you can carry several loaves of bread. That's not going to be heavy. But notice it weighs more than that pencil weighs. Okay? And also, ounces in weight are different than liquid ounces. So that's why they say fluid ounce for liquids and then just regular ounce for weight. And then a car. A car is about 1 ton, and 1 ton, just so that you can have a visual, is equal to 2,000 pounds. Okay? So most adults are going to weigh somewhere between 100 and 200 pounds. You know, men will be on the higher end of that. They may be a little more than 200. Women are going to be on the lower end of that for the most part. But, you know, you can have women that weigh more or less. You can have men that weigh more or less. But just get in your mind, I just want you to have that visual, that an adult may weigh around 150 pounds. And if you've ever tried to move a car, you know that is really, really heavy. The car would be closer to 10 or more adults. Like, just imagine the weight of like 10 adults. Okay, so that is what a ton is like as far as it weighs. So about how much does a grapefruit weigh? Well, we know that you cannot compare the weight of a grapefruit to a car. Like, the car weighs a lot more. But let's think about it. I'm thinking about holding a grapefruit in my hand. Well, a grapefruit's a little bit bigger than an orange. And I think that an orange is going to weigh more than a pencil. So I'm thinking to myself that the grapefruit will be more like 1 pound. Okay? Because the grapefruit would weigh closer to what the loaf of bread weighs. Okay, let's go on. All right, now what you see here is actually, it is the British flag. And the reason I'm showing you the British flag is because in Britain, as well as other countries, they do not use the customary system for measurement. They use the metric system. Okay? So we're just switching gears, and we're now going to talk about the metric units. Okay? They're going to still measure length, liquids, and weight, but instead of using the ones that we use here in the United States, all across the world, they use the metric system. Okay, and what's really great about the metric system is it's based on place value. Okay, so it's really easy to keep up with. Once you've learned one of them, it's really easy to go from looking at length to volume, liquid volume, to then looking at weight. So each unit is 10 times as large as the next smaller unit. And we're going to look at some common metric benchmarks. Alrighty. I want you to think about the ruler. Now on the ruler, one side of it we have inches, because we're here in the United States, And on the other side of it, we typically will see centimeters. Now, each of the centimeters is broken into 10 smaller units that are not labeled. Those are millimeters. Okay? So they're showing you something tiny like a staple, the width of a staple. You can think of that as 1 millimeter. Okay, 1 centimeter. You're thinking about going across on your fingernail. Okay, just the width of your fingernail is about 1 centimeter. Now, 1 decimeter is the next unit over. It's the next one larger. We don't really use this one too much, but when you open up your hand, just kind of spread it out, that would be about 1 decimeter. Now, 1 meter. That is going to be about the width of a door. It's very close to the measure of a yard. Okay, remember we had the yard, we thought about a bat as a yard. Well, if I looked at a meter stick and I looked at a yardstick, the difference is going to be about 3 inches. So they are very, very close. Okay, so the meter, you can think of the width of the door, or if you just have a visual image of that meter stick you've seen in class, that is 1 meter. Okay, so if I were measuring somebody, most people are going to be larger than a meter. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. All right, 1 kilometer. That is, when we're talking about length, it's how far you'd walk in about 10 minutes. Now remember, the largest customary unit that we talked about for length was mile, and that was how far you'd walk in 20 minutes about. Now we're talking about a kilometer. This is how far you'd walk in half of that time, in 10 minutes. Okay, so that's really a large distance. But remember, it's not as large of a distance as a mile. Alrighty, is the length of your classroom greater than or less than 1 kilometer? So you're asking yourself, would it take me less than 10 minutes to walk the length of my class from one side of the room to the other, or would it take me longer than 10 minutes to walk from one side of the classroom to the other? Well, I hope we all agree that the length of our classroom is actually less than 1 kilometer. All right, I went ahead and wrote that down, and notice I just used the symbol km to represent kilometer. Okay, we're going to go to the next one. So again, imagining that we're still in the rest of the world outside of the United States when we use the metric system of measurement, we can now look at liquid volume. So this is how we measure liquids. The smallest amount is what's going to go in an eyedropper, and that's going to be 1 millimeter. So that's not a lot. Okay? You're thinking about like a drop coming out of that. And then 1 liter, you can think about a large bottle of like a Gatorade. Okay? That would be 1 liter. Not the little small personal size ones, but it's the one that's just a little bit larger. That's going to be 1 liter. Okay? And when you buy sodas, like if you're buying sodas for a party, you have the 2-liter bottle, which is pretty big, and then there's the mega bottle, which is a 3-liter bottle. Okay? Now, this is one of those things that even though we're in the United States, you will also find that a lot of our drinks are sold in liters. Okay, so they don't just say, oh yeah, we're here in the U.S., we're going to use the customary system. For a lot of beverage companies, they do give us liters, half liters, instead of just giving us the amount in ounces. Okay? So, about how much medicine is usually in a medicine bottle? About 120 milliliters. Okay? Now, in a medicine bottle, like if we are taking some cough syrup, we are not going to have 120 liters. That would take up so much space. That would be like 120 big Gatorade bottles. Okay, then we're talking about mass. Okay, it's similar to weight, but it's actually a little bit different. Okay, so you're just thinking about how much space something takes up. So a dollar bill is about 1 gram, while a baseball bat, okay, there's going to be more stuff inside of it. That one is going to measure 1 kilogram. So what do you think the mass of a paper clip is going to be closer to? Would it be closer to the dollar bill or the bat? Well, it's definitely going to be closer to the dollar bill. Okay, so 1 paper clip is going to have a mass of about 1 gram. Okay, we're moving right along. A cup is a measurement of, anybody remember? Well, it's a hint if you think about the name of it. So it's a measurement of liquid volume. Okay? An inch measures, is it length, liquid volume, time, or weight? Hopefully we see its length. I'm not doing the best job at circling these letters. An ounce. It's not called a fluid ounce. It's just an ounce. An ounce measures weight. Okay, which unit does not measure liquid volume? Well, we know a cup does. We know a gallon does. We know a pint does. So a pound measures weight. That does not measure liquid volume. And then finally, which unit does not measure length? Okay, a yard does. Size is like a baseball bat. A foot does. Think about the size of a ruler. An inch does. And look, pound was our answer again. A pound does not measure length. So now we're thinking about the better estimate for the width of a computer mouse. Now, a computer mouse is the thing that we can put our hands on to move the arrow on the computer, something that would be attached. Now, I know that a computer mouse is not the size of 2 rulers, so I know it cannot be 2 feet. Therefore, it's about 2 inches wide. The height of a stop sign. I have 3 meters or 3 kilometers. Now, I remember a kilometer is the length of time, like the distance I would walk in 10 minutes. Now, if a stop sign was that high, imagine walking upwards for 10 minutes to the sky. Yeah, I would not see the stop sign, and I would run the stop sign all the time. So that's not reasonable, the 3 kilometers, but 3 meters, thinking about 3 meter sticks put on top of each other, that's reasonable for the height of a stop sign. It's kind of high, but it's still reasonable. Okay, the weight of a bag of grapes. We have 3 ounces or 3 pounds. I know from going to the grocery store, because I'm always taking the grapes out of it, that a bag of grapes is going to be in pounds, okay? So it's most likely going to be 3 pounds and not 3 ounces, okay? And then the mass of an actual mouse. We had that one bat had a mass of 1 kilogram. So that's kind of sizable. But I'm thinking of a mouse, it's not going to be as, it's not going to have the same mass of a bat. So I think it's not going to be anywhere near the 30 kilograms, and therefore 30 grams is going to be more realistic. Okay, so as you can see in this video, we talked about the customary system as well as the metric system, and it really depends on where you're from. Now, I don't want you just to think that if you're from Britain, you only use the metric system, because again, the majority of the world uses the metric system. And even though we're here in the United States, we still also use the metric system. So that's why we learn both. We learn the customary system of measurement as well as the metric system of measurements. I hope this video made sense and that you learned something new. Until we meet again, take care.